Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Fight Song Sports Podcast. As always, my name is Ty Hansen, and joining me, Bryson Lewis. Bryson, we've got some signing day news to talk about. It's what we're going to cover. Big day for both the Huskers and the Sooners. Some unexpected flips, and overall a good class from both sides. We'll dive into both teams, but we'll start with the Sooners. What was your take on how the Sooners made out during National Signing Day?
With the transition class, with coaching change and everything, it's about as good as though you could ask for, I think. It's still one of their better classes since Lincoln Riley first arrived as OC in 2015. I think there's some future really strong contributors, maybe All-American type guys on the class.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I think they did a good job of just kind of, I don't want to say salvage because the class was so high, but with everything that's just happened, to still walk out with the number 8 class in the country, I think is definitely an accomplishment. Brent Venables obviously did a fantastic job with keeping some of the guys. Obviously, some followed with Lincoln Riley to USC, but keeping most of the guys and even picking up some more to add to that class that's stacked. It's going to be a good class. I agree. I think there's a lot of future All-Americans, and OU shouldn't miss a beat. So we'll let you dive into specifically who they signed and talk about each name individually and what you think.
Yeah, so we'll just go straight down the list. I'll start with Nicholas Anderson, wide receiver out of Katy, Texas, brother of former Sooner Rodney Anderson. Big kid, 6'4", 196, and obviously you got to like the genes with the Anderson family. He was a late pickup. OU kind of lost some of their receivers, their first 3 receivers that were committed. Maybe the coaching staff was mailing it in. You never know. But Anderson's a good pickup. I think he's definitely going to have to get a little bigger in the weight room. 6'4", 196. He can probably still fill out a little more. And I think he might be dealing with a little bit of an injury when he first gets in. So we'll have to see. Next up, we've got Javonte Barnes, top 100 running back in the country, number 3 overall running back. I like this kid a lot. I think his vision is phenomenal. And OU's running back room going into the next season is pretty thin. Not a lot of contributors coming back other than Eric Gray and Marcus Major, who has had some great issues in the past. I think Barnes is going to be a guy that we might see get some carries this year. Next up, we've got Jamarian Burt from Florida, 6'1" corner. I like this kid a ton. He was committed to Florida for a long time before those staff changes. Venables and co saw an opportunity and took it. OU obviously brought in the Florida recruiting director, Lee Davis, and the relationship was already established. I think that kid's going to be a player for too long. Quarterback Nick Evers out of Flower Mound, Texas. Yeah. He's definitely pretty raw. I think he's got a lot of potential. He's obviously got that prior relationship with Levy, hence the flip pretty soon there from Florida. I know some people kind of see a little Baker Mayfield in him. I don't think that's too far off, but he's definitely a down the road kind of guy. I think he's going to need 2-3 years to get in the system, which is why it's a good thing they've got Dylan Gabriel ready to roll.
Yeah, and from what I've seen from him, the kid definitely looks legit. And with OU's quarterback history, no matter who the coach is, OU is one of the best quarterback schools in the country. And I agree, Gabriel is for sure going to be the dude, but a guy down the road that I think people should keep their eyes on for sure.
Next, we got Jaden Gibson, receiver out of Florida. He was real close with Nick Evers. They were both committed to Florida there for a little bit. And obviously flips over to the Sooners. Big 6'5", 190 receiver. Can probably still fill out a little bit in the weight room, get in there with Jerry Schmidt. I think a lot of people like this kid. Receiver room also kind of thin for the Sooners coming into this season, so we might see some snaps late. We'll just have to see how it plays out. But I think that kid could be really good down the line. Grayson Halton, late pickup for the Sooners, defensive end out of San Diego, California. I haven't seen too much of this kid. He's rated as a 4-star. We're just gonna have to see how he fits into the system. Really, he's only 259. Venables kind of likes his guys up there closer to the 270 range on the edge, so we'll have to see how he fits in the weight room and stuff. Next up, Caden Helms, tight end out of Nebraska. Yeah. I think this kid's got a lot of potential. Obviously, number 2 rated player in the entire state of Nebraska. I think he's got a lot of potential.
That's obviously one that I had circled. A big loss for the Huskers. They needed that one and didn't get it. Out of Bellevue West, which is a very good high school football program up here in Nebraska. 2021, 51 catches, 944 yards, and 11 touchdowns. He was committed before the coaching change and stayed committed, which I think was a big one to keep. He's a very athletic tight end. He's definitely a pass catcher first, but I think that he'll be really good at tight end, especially at OU. Obviously, as I mentioned with quarterbacks, OU also a very good tight end school too. So
yeah, he's definitely. I think he'll need a redshirt year. He's got to fill out a little bit more, I think, but down the line, 1 or 2 years from now, I think he's going to be a really good player for him. Next up is Cavante Henry, another defensive end out of California. A late flip from Michigan. Obviously, there was some stuff going around about Harbaugh in the NFL. You saw that, took advantage of it, jumped in there, picked up Cavante Henry. I know a lot of people like this dude a ton. He's listed as a 3-star on, I believe, both 247 and Rivals. But he's got a lot of really good get off the line. I think he could be a really good player here pretty soon for the Sooners. Next up, linebacker out of Kansas, Jaron Kanik. Obviously, big flip for the Sooners. They offered him back in summer 21, but he was all in with Venables being a Kansas guy. And I think this kid, there's already reports and words already leaking out. He's lighting up the workout so far. He's a big kid, 6'2", 210, and can fly. Obviously, very good in track. He's a guy, I think, future All-American for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And not easily, they got him listed linebacker, but I mean, the dude's just an athlete. He's a freak. I saw that his 100-meter in track, his PR is a 10.37, which is absurd for a linebacker. I mean, that's like running back, wide receiver speed. And to have that big of a body at linebacker is very scary. And as you mentioned, was committed to Clemson. And when Venables actually visited him with Dabo, when Venables hadn't taken the job yet, comes to OU, is able to get him. That's a big name for OU and a dude that I think is going to be very good. So.
Yep, I absolutely think he could get some snaps this year. Could even fill into that nickel position. Sometimes Brent likes to go big 6 DBs, and he's definitely a guy that has the speed to play that. Next up, another linebacker, Kip Lewis, committed since early 2020, if I'm not mistaken. 6'2", 200. Another kid, he's got some pretty good speed for a linebacker. I think he'll fit in very well in the Venables system. A lot of people like him. We'll have to see how he gets in, learns the system and stuff. I think he's pretty raw, but I think he's got a lot of potential. Next up, Jason Llewellyn, another tight end out of Aledo. Probably another guy that's going to need to come in a redshirt. He's 6'5", 243. But Sooners have Braden Willis returning, and then Daniel Parker transferred in from Missouri. He'll probably be able to redshirt, take a year, and hopefully take advantage of that 4-game rule. He can play 4 games, no redshirt. Aledo's not really a place the Sooners have had a lot of success in the past. They've dipped in this year and got him to stick. Next up, Kobe McKenzie, another linebacker. Big kid. There's a picture from about 2 years ago, him next to Kenneth Murray, who was first round linebacker draft pick out of Oklahoma. Bigger than him in the picture, which is just ridiculous if you think about it.
Who is Kenneth Murray is a massive individual as well. So
Kobe McKenzie, I think he's going to be really special. He flipped to Texas shortly after the coaching change, and ended up flipping back, I think, like 2 days later, after Venables was able to do an in-home with him. He's a guy really bought into OU. He helped recruit Kanik to the Sooners. He's already on campus as an early enrollee. He's also going to probably see the field sooner rather than later. Cedric Roberts, 6'4", 280 D tackle, out of Texas, 3-star. I don't really know a lot about this kid, really. I know late in the game there were some rumors that maybe OU wasn't going to keep a scholarship on, but he ends up signing with the Sooners. I think in the long run, maybe give him 2-3 years, he might start seeing the field. I think in the long run, though, he's probably just a depth piece for the Sooners. Next up, we got Jaden Rowe out of Union up in Tulsa. Corner is what they've got him listed as. I think probably nickel or safety in his future. This is one of my favorite signees. The Sooners got brought in this year. 6'3", 210 is a defensive back, and he can absolutely fly it. We saw his track times were phenomenal. Um, just an early identified by Grinch and Co. And then he stayed on through the coaching change. I think that kid's got a chance to be really special. Next up, Gavin Sawchuk, running back out of Colorado, same high school as Christian McCaffrey. He broke all McCaffrey's old rushing records out there, #1 in the state of Colorado. This kid, I think Barnes, I said was going to get some touches this year, probably be in the rotation. Sawchuk, I think, might need a little bit more time, probably redshirt this year. But he's more like straight line runner. Barnes is more vision, maybe bounce outside. I think Sawchuk could be really good in the long run. I just don't think it'll be immediate impact for the Sooners. Next up, out of Deer Creek, Edmond, Oklahoma, Jacob Sexton, big offensive tackle. We obviously spent a year in high school with him. It came down to OU in Texas, and his family, known to be Texas fans, but OU picked him up from his commitment. He stayed on through the coaching change.
Yeah.
I think this kid's got a lot of potential. If it was a Benny Wiley strength and conditioning program, I might have a little more questions. They've got Jerry Schmidt in there. I think Jacob Sexton can thrive in that environment.
Yep, I agree. And as you mentioned, we fortunately got to see him. Was a very, very key part in taking Deer Creek to the state final game. Obviously didn't go their way, playing a great Bigsby team, but was one of the key pieces in even getting him there. And I agree, a big body, but is also a very, very good athlete, 3-sport athlete in high school with football, wrestling, and track. Although he's big and he's going to be young, but he's definitely an athlete. So.
Yep. Next up, another defensive back out of the Tulsa area. This one from Broken Bow, Robert Spears Jennings. Just a very good athlete. I know he went down to the Under Armour All-American game, and I believe he won whatever their speed competition is that they've got down there. There were some questions about his speed, but he obviously proved that that's not really going to be an issue. This is a kid, I think he's going to be a bit of a project. He'll probably need a couple years in the system and in the weight room, but 6'2", 200 is what they've got him listed as. I think down the line, he's got all conference, maybe all American potential. Can definitely be a really good safety for the Sooners down the stretch. Next up, Alton Tarber, a big defensive tackle out of Deerfield Beach, Florida. They've got him listed at 6'3", 320. I think he might immediately become the only player on the Oklahoma roster that's over 300 pounds based on how Grinch was running his defense. If he truly is at 320. I think he's definitely probably going to need to shed a bit of his baby fat, maybe learn the system. But I think in the long run, he's got a chance to be a really good player for an Inevitable system. Next up, another offensive lineman from Bishop Gorman in Las Vegas, Nevada, Jake Taylor. Another guy who stayed on through the coaching change. A lot of people weren't really expecting him to, being kind of out there on the West Coast a little bit. But I'm really excited about this kid. I think he's got absolute boom potential for the Sooners playing tackle. I know a lot of people have compared him to Cody Ford, obviously early pick by the Buffalo Bills. I like his game a ton. I think he's going to need to get in the weight room a little bit, and obviously most offensive linemen don't make an early impact, but he could be a corner piece on the Sooners offense line here in a couple of years for sure.
Especially from Bishop Gorman as well. I mean, a powerhouse program. They don't take things lightly out there. I mean, that is, although it's a high school, it's absolutely run like a college program. So, I mean, they'll be ready for whatever he gets thrown at,
100%. Next up, R. Mason Thomas, defensive end out of Florida, 6'3", 220. Late flip from Iowa State on National Signing Day for the Sooners. This was someone, I believe he was one of the first offers Venables made on the defensive side in 2022 when he came in. Another kid, I think he's going to need some time in the system. He was just a late identifier for the Sooners, but he could definitely be a player in the long run. I think he's going to need to put on 20, 30 pounds probably, though, before he really gets on the field. Finally, yet another Tulsa DB, Gentry Williams, out of Booker T. Washington up there in Tulsa. Probably going to play corner for the Sooners. He's got some really good speed. He had a ACL injury his junior year, I believe, and played his senior year out. Played pretty well from what I could gather. I think they'll probably need 1-2 years, but he's a guy who could even jump into the rotation this year. He's got that kind of athleticism for the Sooners, and he's another one of my favorite signees they brought in this year.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think as this class as a whole, I think OU did a really good job. As I mentioned earlier, they went out and got the guys that they needed to get from around the area. Didn't let too many slip from at home and the pipeline states surrounding. You're able to flip guys like Jared Kanik out of Kansas. Keep guys home like Jacob Sexton, as we mentioned, and I think it was a great class for OU.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely, like I said earlier, transition class, always tough to keep together, but they did a phenomenal job. Obviously, Bob Stoops even got out there and helped him while the coaching search was going on. But definitely keeping the border closed. That was something OU struggled with the past few years, losing guys like Josh Proctor, Dax Hill, just guys like that. And they kept Gentry in. There was some USC buzz with him early and then some Florida buzz late. They just did a really good job getting him his signature on the paper.
Yeah, and I definitely think it helps having Bob Stoops at your back, especially early. As soon as Lincoln Riley left, Bob Stoops was helping out. And I know if I was a football recruit and I had Bob Stoops walk into my home, it would be pretty hard to say no. And then, obviously once Venables was hired and then Brent Venables walks into my home, it would also be very hard to say no to that as well. So, it's Oklahoma. All they got to do is take you around campus, take you down to the facilities, and obviously the history speaks for itself too. But as you mentioned, a transition class, lost some guys, but also kept a lot of guys and flipped guys they didn't think they were going to get. But a great class, top to bottom.
Yep, absolutely.
So we'll move on to Nebraska. Nebraska finished tied for 38th in the country, tied for 9th in the Big Ten with Illinois. A class that was a little bit underwhelming, especially headed into National Signing Day, and a couple big flips late kind of turned things around. People were worried that the class was so low, but I think we kind of salvaged it. And I think what people need to understand is that we have one of the best transfer classes in the country coming in. And although, you don't see the freshman recruiting class being, very good, very high up there, it's because we have transfers. The transfers are going to come in. They're going to play. We went out and got 2 quarterbacks in Casey Thompson and Chubba Purdy. That's the guy for right now and the guy for the future. Like, that's just going to be how it is when you have such a high class or transfer class, that your high school class is going to be low. But a couple key guys that I want to highlight for the Huskers. I think the first guy, and it's going to be a really interesting one, that being Emmett Johnson, a running back out of Minneapolis, Minnesota. This is a kid that really kind of picked up some traction late. Didn't have much. Nobody really knew who this kid was. Nebraska was his only Power 5 offer. He gets named Mr. Football for the state of Minnesota, and I think that kind of put him on the map. He ran for 2,400 yards the senior year with 41 rushing touchdowns. The numbers are there. And when you go watch film of this kid, I couldn't believe that he didn't have any other Power 5 offers. The speed is there, but the elusiveness is there. The dude gets the ball and just seems to make all 11 guys miss. I think he is going to be very, very good for Nebraska. Maybe not right now. We saw a lot of running backs this year. I want to say it's going to be a crowded room because there are so many that got reps, but at the same time, we didn't have one guy that got all the time, and that's our starter. So you might also be able to get some reps because we saw that rotation last year. So I don't know. I think that running back room is going to be interesting this year. And another addition we have to that running back group, Anthony Grant, a running back out of Buford, Georgia, a former Florida State guy, spent 2 years there. Was at New Mexico Military Institute this past year, junior college, obviously in New Mexico. Beat Iowa Western in the national championship game. So he's a junior college national champion. Ran for 1,700 yards there, 18 rushing touchdowns, 144 rushing yards per game. So it was very good there. And anytime you're winning a national championship at any level, it speaks to the quality of your talents. At Florida State, he was primarily a kick returner, but I don't believe he did that at New Mexico Military Institute. We did pick up some kick. We had kick returning issues last year, as everybody knows. We picked up Trey Palmer, a wide receiver from LSU, who's transferring in, who I think will probably handle the kick return duties. But another option there. And as I mentioned, another crowded running back room that I don't know if the snaps will be there immediately, just because we had so many guys. But I would think as a junior college kid, you're going into a situation where you know you're going to play. So I don't know. Maybe Frost and the offensive guys have some ideas that that I don't know about, and that he's going to get some snaps, and I hope so. I mean, he's obviously a great running back. We signed Jaden Gold, the defensive back out of New Jersey. Attended the same high school as Ramir Johnson, who was our primary running back last year, who was a big part of getting him to Nebraska. I believe was committed to USC and decommitted. Yeah. Had other offers from Alabama, Clemson, Notre Dame, OU, Texas A&M. So came to Nebraska over some schools that are in much better situation than what Nebraska is. He was a 2021 New Jersey High School Player of the Year. This guy's going to be good. We've had some pretty good defensive backs in recent history. Cam Taylor-Britt, guys like that. But obviously, Ramir Johnson, a big part in getting him to come from New Jersey to Nebraska. He should be good, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him in the mix right away, honestly. But
Yeah.
we'll have to see. We'll have to see how he develops.
Yeah, he's a big kid. I like him a lot. I know when OU offered him, I watched a little bit of his tape. He's definitely a guy that could probably make a pretty early impact for Nebraska in the first couple of years. 6'2", some places have him at 6'3". Big kid. He could absolutely going to be a player in the future, I think.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's why it's such a big deal, or a big recruit, is that he should be able to play right away. And that'll be nice. Obviously, getting anybody from New Jersey to Nebraska is tough to do, and we got it done. A couple other names: Richard Torres, quarterback out of Texas. I like him. I think he's going to be good. I don't know how well it's going to work out at Nebraska, unfortunately. I mean, we just picked up 2 transfer quarterbacks, and then the third being Logan Smothers, and then we have Harburg behind him. Rumors were that he was obviously knew the situation, what he was getting into, but I mean, I don't know. It'll be crowded. We'll see what he can do. I like him a lot. I think he's a fantastic quarterback. I just don't know that the situation is there for Nebraska or for him to make the most of it, unfortunately, because I really like him. Another guy we were able to flip and get to come to the Huskers, DeColdis Crawford, obviously a big name. Everybody knows about him. Was committed to LSU for a long time, from Louisiana. We get Mickey Joseph to come from LSU. He is able to flip Crawford and get him to the Huskers, a guy I like a lot. We got a deep wide receiver room. I don't know that he'll get a ton of action right away. I hope he does, but I mean, it's a deep receiver room, so we'll have to see. And then Jake Applegate, another Nebraska kid that I think is going to be really good. Obviously, it's always important keeping the Nebraska kids at home. That's if Nebraska is going to be any good, they can't let guys slip away from in their backyard. I mean, we saw it in Caden Helms, Bellevue kid going to OU. That's a big part for Nebraska, is going to be keeping those Nebraska kids at home for sure. A couple more flips. We got AJ Allen, another running back from Monroe, Louisiana. He was committed to TCU for a long time. Brian Applewhite, who is the new Huskers running back coach, was at TCU and recruited him to TCU. So that wasn't a huge surprise. We didn't really think we were going to get it, but we also knew we maybe had a shot. And fortunately, we did get him. 4-star recruit. But as I have mentioned about Grant and Johnson, it's going to be a crowded running back room. So I want to say, he might not get a shot right away, but at the same time, everybody got a shot last year. So, I mean, he might get a shot. I don't know. We'll just have to see. Another surprise on signing day, Janiran Bonner, a wide receiver from Ellenwood, Georgia, was committed to Georgia Tech for quite a while, and 4-star kid, and out of the blue, really kind of Nebraska just picks up some traction, and we get the job done, and we're able to flip him on ESPN too, which was nice to see. I don't know much about him. I haven't gotten a chance to really watch a ton of film on him, but I mean, obviously, if you're a 4-star wide receiver from Georgia, that sounds nice. Headed into a stacked wide receiver room. I don't know that he'll get much right out of the gate, but should be able to develop. And under Mickey Joseph, I'm not worried. I think we should be able to keep him and turn him into a serious playmaker. But overall, I mean, I think it was a good class for Nebraska that we were able to salvage late. Definitely a winner on signing day. I mean, we were in the 60s and 70s at one point in this recruiting class, and it was ugly. I mean, we last in the Big Ten, and people were worried, and I was a little worried as well. But I knew we were going after some transfers. But I mean, to end up 38th is not where Nebraska needs to be. But on the bright side, looking from where we were to getting to 38th and ninth in the Big Ten, I mean, I'm happy about it. We got above Wisconsin, which is always big, competing for the West. And Northwestern, I believe, was last also in the West. So I don't know, a good class overall. I think I maybe some guys that could be, all conference later in their career. I don't know that we have any potential, Heisman or anything. I think that'll, come from the transfer. All-Americans, maybe we'll have to see, but it's going to be a diamond in the rough class. If any of these guys turn out to be studs, it's going to be a diamond in the rough, and we'll see. We'll see what the coaches saw, and it's either going to look really bad or really good. So we'll see. We'll get your thoughts on what you think as a whole for Nebraska.
Yeah, obviously not a phenomenal class. 38th is never great, especially for name like Nebraska, brand like Nebraska, but only brought in 18 guys, smaller class. Never really going to be that high rated when you're bringing in less than 20 guys. I definitely think there's some future all conference guys. I like AJ Allen. Anytime you can get a Louisiana kid. And I mean, TCU has obviously had some past success at running back, but I like him a lot. Georgia Tech, not really known for their receivers, but Bonner, I
Calvin
think, is a
Johnson.
kid. Yeah, I mean, Georgia Tech triple option, but I think Bonner definitely, he could be a player in maybe 2-3 years. But I mean, 4-star out of Georgia, you gotta like that. Georgia's obviously packed with talent. The Grant kid, Anthony Grant, the running back, I think he could be a player, kind of a shifty back, I think, from what I've read up on him. And like you said, it's a crowded room, but somebody's going to have to get some carries somewhere, and someone's going to take advantage of it. And he's obviously played some college ball, albeit JUCO, but like you said, national champion. I mean, he's definitely got an opportunity that he can take.
Yeah. I mean, I think the running back room is going to be really interesting this year. I mean, you bring in 3 kind of high profile guys. I say high profile, but the ones that, stand out to me and the ones I circled for this class. And you come into a running back room where we had like 4 or 5 guys get a start, or, at least some significant time. Maybe they're not satisfied with what we have and are looking for somebody to step up. I don't know. I don't know. That one's going to be interesting for sure, because I like all 3 that we got. And if we had, nobody, I would be like, okay, I'm happy about this. But the fact that we have, 4 or 5 guys that are legit, we'll have to see. You got Ramir Johnson, who was the feature back for the most part last year. I mean, Yank comes out against Northwestern, has a monster game, and then we don't see much of him again. Gabe Irvin, who's hurt again the OU game, he's coming back. We lose Sevion Morrison, but I mean, I don't know. We'll see. I mean, I'm taking everybody that we have over these guys for right now. But yeah, they're freshmen. They're coming in. They're not supposed to be the guy day one, and that's kind of the goal. So I don't know. We'll see. I like them. I love them. I love the class we brought in. Like I said, I think a lot of diamond in the roughs here. But we'll see. So I don't know. That's kind of my thoughts on it. There's not a lot to say right now. I think it's just going to be, we'll see what happens on the field. And I think every, Nebraska fan agrees upon that. But this year, I think overall was a weird year for recruiting. With the transfer portal being as big as it ever has been, I feel like 1,000 coaching changes. I mean, dude's just going everywhere. You get Travis Hunter, the number 1 recruit in the country, heads to Jackson State. I believe they picked up another 4-star as well. You can quote me if I'm wrong, but Texas A&M signs the best class ever. I mean, obviously Texas A&M, great classes every year, but I mean, for the Aggies to have the number one class ever, I don't know. I mean, it was a really weird year for recruiting this year. A lot of flips, a lot of uncertainty for everybody.
Yep, I agree. It's also, I think this is going to be that last class that was really affected by COVID, not really getting to take a ton of visits early. It's something I said about the 2021 class at the time. I think we'll see a lot of transfers in and out of places, and the portal's only going to get crazier unless they really crack down on it. But now we'll just kind of turn our attention towards, winter workouts, spring football. And I think obviously for OU and Nebraska, spring games are going to be a hot topic, and seeing what the new staff at OU puts out there and the transfers look like at Nebraska.
Yeah, I agree. The spring game is going to be big. I think especially for the quarterback and the running back positions at Nebraska. Casey Thompson will likely be the guy, but you've got Chuba Purdy and even Logan Smothers and guys coming in like Richard Torres that could maybe make a name and stand out as a freshman. And as I've said it 100 times already, that running back room is going to be interesting. But I agree. I mean, I think it's just down to turning what you have into dudes. And I mean, the stars don't matter once you show up on campus. I mean, what can you do? You've seen guys who are, 1-star, 2-star guys, not even rated, become, first round picks. You've seen guys be 5 stars and, can't even stay at a school for, a year and start. So you never know. But I agree. Winter workouts and spring practice is when boys become men, and what you did in high school doesn't matter. What you did in junior college or your old school doesn't matter. You just show up and work. So, I mean,
Absolutely.
I think, yeah. And I think both schools are going to do a great job, new coaching staffs. And I don't think either staff is going to be necessarily comfortable and think they have it figured out. So Scott Frost, obviously on the hot seat. Brent with an entire new staff taking on a storied program that he has to keep running. Scott with a completely new offensive staff. We'll see. I don't know. We'll see. It'll be interesting for sure. But as we said, a weird year. And you brought up a good point. COVID, guys weren't getting to take a ton of visits early. Plus, you've got guys still taking their 5th and 6th and 7th years, and it seems like it's never going to end. But I don't know.
Yeah. One more note on the recruiting side. OU still got a couple of guys out there that haven't really decided. Josh Connerly, offensive lineman, out there on the West Coast. He's already said he's going to announce on March. I don't really like OU's chances there, but you never know with Bill Bedenbaugh. And then Levius Overton, one of the top-rated 2023 recruits, just today announced he was reclassifying. Big defensive lineman, has OU in his final 5. Oregon jumped in there with Lanning. Overton, obviously out of Georgia, going to be tough to get him away from there. His dad did play with Kel Gundy at Oklahoma. I expect maybe a summer decision there. Reclassifying to 22, he obviously can't wait very long, but he's going to take some official visits. But that about wraps up recruiting. We do have some breaking news from the NFL. Jaguars hiring Doug Peterson as their head coach.
Really?
Yep.
Better than Urban
really
Meyer.
Dive into too much NFL, but definitely better than Urban Meyer in the NFL.
Yeah. I know. I believe Harbaugh's staying, right? We got Harbaugh for another year at Michigan.
Yep.
Yeah.
Harbaugh says he's staying.
I don't love it. I was really ready for him to go, but honestly, it just to me just seems like he didn't like something in the NFL, and it's just going to be like one more year. Honestly, it's just kind of how I feel.
Yeah, I think he'll look for a couple more jobs next year. I don't think he's going to be long term at Michigan.
No, and in the way I kind of read about him returning to Michigan just seemed like it was like, all right, well, I didn't like what I had, so I think we'll just go one more year, and then hopefully a more lucrative job opens up.
Yep.
I don't know that I would want to take on the situation in Minnesota or Miami, which I think he was rumored to.
Yep.
Those are 2 places I'd want to stay away. So I don't know.
Absolutely.
That definitely makes that Michigan game a lot harder for Nebraska. We'll see.
Yeah.
So Yeah. So thank you guys for listening. We're going to wrap up here. You guys got the recap on the Sooners and Huskers recruiting class. One good, one all right, but we'll have to see how these guys turn out. And as we mentioned earlier, it's time to go to work for both schools. So thank you guys for listening. We will see you guys next week. Appreciate it.